All right, the final memoir, the final book that I read this year in my 52 book project is called Brown Boy. It's a novel by Omar Aziz, and it's a book I was looking forward to for most of the year. It's a memoir of a first generation immigrant whose parents migrated to Canada, and he grew up here. He went to high school here, went to university. Eventually, he got the opportunity to travel to other parts of the world, where he did a fall semester at. So he studied at Rick Hansen Secondary School in Mississauga, and then went to Queen's University to study political sciences. Spent some time in Cambridge getting a master's degree, and then came back to study law at Yale Law School. So I think the book was structured using these experiences. Once he finished law, he did come back to Canada and work in the Prime Minister's office as a foreign policy advisor. And then he decided to pursue another fellowship at Harvard University. I think in the book he talks about his experience at each of these educational institutions and how about some of the things he observed as an immigrant, as someone that was a person of color. So I think it's a really good first generation BIPOC memoir. He's got some really, I mean, have a lot of notes in this book, and I'm really grateful to the local library for um, having a copy of it. I think uh, I think the most powerful sentence for me in this book was on page 289. I was not here to fit in anymore. I was here to make room. And this is towards the end of the book. He slowly realized that he doesn't have to explain himself, doesn't have to explain his background. He worked hard enough to be where he is, and he doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. For most of the book, you could see that he was trying to prove that he was worthy of holding, of being at the table. Eventually, through education and through hard work, he got to a point where he believed that he deserved the rights and respect that anyone else in the same position deserved. I think the early part of the book was also very relatable, especially as someone that grew up third culture myself. Some of the stories of his parents moving to Canada, the cold winters, and adjusting to this new environment. Him making friends at school, trying to fit in, always feeling like an outsider. Growing up, with his grandparents staying at home. So a lot of these things were really interesting to observe. His father worked as a parket ticket officer and was able to support his family on that particular job. And it was a really inspirational story of how his father stayed persistent. And it was the same for his mother, who, really committed her life to that family with three young boys and her husband and the husband's mother. Um, as someone that moved here as an immigrant, I really enjoyed a lot of his observations about how he grew up here as a first generation immigrant. I think it's very different being an immigrant and a first generation immigrant. You do have different privileges in both these positions, but um, several. I think I really enjoyed also reading some of the how his thinking developed. I think the most transformational part for him early on in the book was when he was in the last few months of his high school experience. He realized he saw Barack Obama deliver a speech, and that's when he realized that through education and hard work, anything was possible for his life. He was not a very motivated student till then, but after that, he really focused on his studies, and I think that was really inspirational to see as another young person, in the same age bracket. So, um, if I had to share some more passages, like, here's another one. When I said culture, I meant that we were both brown, yes, but we were born in the West. That meant a certain freedom, an autonomy in how to live that none of our cousins back in South Asia would have had, that our parents never had. Um, I think he was talking about his time in Paris in France. He spoke about how he was drawn to this world not because of its wealth, but because ideas and freedom were in the air. The feeling of creation, of things about to be drawn, painted, written, recorded, art that might one day shake the conscience of others. For a few moments, I was stunned, enthralled, and forgot that I was almost out of money. I think he goes into a lot of details of his experience at university, and I think you really see him meet some of the top leaders in the world, like his meeting with Prince Charles of Wales when he was at Cambridge, or his meeting with Justin Trudeau when he worked as a foreign policy advisor, and just his determination of reaching out to senior professors and asking them to be his mentor. I think. I think there's a lot to learn from his particular journey. So, Omar Aziz, if you are listening to this and if you do get a chance to watch this video, thank you for writing this book. I hope you continue to document your experiences, and I look forward to more work by you as a writer.